Okay, let's dive in. Sometimes the biggest ideas, the really impactful ones, they don't come wrapped in complexity.
Hmm.
They can actually show up in, well, surprisingly simple places. Today, we're looking at some fascinating source material you shared with us. It's essentially one chapter, but it's laser focused on a single, really powerful idea.
That's right. And our mission really is to unpack that single concept. We want to look at the stories, the evidence the source presents, and figure out why something that seems almost minor, maybe trivial, is presented as this key principle for, well, success and happiness.
And the author jumps right in, no messing around. There's this really vivid scene setting right at the start, a dinner party in New York.
Yeah.
And there's this woman clearly trying super hard to impress, inherited money, furs, jewels,
Mhm.
the whole 9 yards.
But the detail that really hits home is that despite all that external stuff, the author points out she hadn't done a thing about her face. It just radiated sourness. Selfishness is how it's put. It immediately sets up this core idea. The expression you wear is way more important than the clothes you put on, at least according to this source.
It's a stark image, and it contrasts so well with the very next example, which is Charles Schwab.
Ah, yes, the steel guy.
Yeah, the steel magnate, famously quoted as saying his smiles was worth $1 million.
And the source kind of hints that was probably selling it short.
Huh, probably.
What's really interesting is how the material directly links Schwab's incredible success to that very smile. It wasn't just business smarts.
Hmm.
It was his personality, his charm, his knack for making people genuinely like him. And the smile is presented as like the foundation of that connection.
So it's presented as much more than just, looking pleasant. The source frames it as a form of communication, a deeper one. It says actions speak louder than words.
Right.
And a genuine smile that apparently says, I like you, you make me happy, I'm glad to see you.
You definitely see that with dogs, don't you? The source mentions that they're just so obviously thrilled to see us, wagging tails, the whole thing.
Totally.
And of course, a baby's smile. It has that immediate disarming effect.
Yeah, that story about the doctor's waiting room is a perfect little snapshot of that. Everyone's sitting there, you know the vibe,
Oh, yeah.
totally glum, impatient. Then this young woman walks in with her baby, and the baby just beams at this one guy who looks particularly down.
And predictable result, but lovely nonetheless. The guy smiled back.
Exactly.
He apparently broke the tension, sparked a conversation. The whole mood shifted just from that one little interaction. It shows how powerful a single sincere smile can be in changing the energy.
And this is a key point the source makes. It has to be genuine.
Oh, absolutely. We all know that fake mechanical grin.
Right, it feels awful. Maybe worse than no smile.
Mm-hmm. What this material is championing is the real deal. The smile that, as it says, comes from within. The kind that apparently will bring a good price in the marketplace.
Which brings up that tangible value idea. Professor James V. McConnell, a psychologist cited in the text,
Yeah.
he links that sincerity to effectiveness everywhere. Managing people, teaching, selling, even raising happier kids. He's quoted saying, there's far more information in a smile than a frown.
That fits so well with his other point mentioned, that encouragement works way better than punishment as a teaching tool.
Definitely. And the practical side is really driven home with that example of the department store employment manager.
Oh, the one who'd hire the smiling clerk over the PhD?
That's the one. Reportedly, they'd take someone with a pleasant smile, even with limited education, over a highly qualified person with a constantly sour face.
Wow. That says a lot about what they valued in customer-facing roles. It really highlights the perceived importance of that positive human connection, maybe even above formal credentials sometimes.
And it's not just face-to-face stuff. The source brings up phone companies actually training people to smile while talking on the phone.
Really? Does it actually come through?
Apparently. They call it phone power, and the idea is that the smile warms up your voice, makes it sound friendlier.
Well, that Robert Cryer story is a great example then. Recruiting that top computer science PhD.
Yeah, competing against the big guys.
Right, bigger, fancier companies. But the candidate chose Cryer's smaller firm. Why? Because Cryer sounded genuinely happy to talk to him on the phone.
Unlike the others who sounded cold, businesslike.
Exactly. And Cryer apparently says he still answers his phone with a smile because of that experience.
God.
It worked.
It really feels tied into that broader philosophy the source mentions from the chairman of that large rubber company.
About having fun.
Yeah, that people rarely succeed unless they're actually having fun doing what they're doing. The material pushes back on the idea that it's just hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It argues that having a rip-roaring good time in business can be the main driver, and when the fun stops and it just feels like work.
That's when things start to slide. Makes sense. And having fun dealing with people almost requires that open, welcoming attitude, right? Like a smile.
It seems connected. The source talks about this experiment they ran,
Oh, yeah.
asking thousands of business folks to consciously smile at someone every hour for a week and report back. The story from William B. Steinhardt, a stockbroker, is presented as pretty typical.
Steinhardt. Okay, what happened with him? He sounds like he was a tough case.
Huh. He described himself as one of the worst grouches around. Admitted he rarely smiled, barely spoke to his wife in the morning. A real charmer.
Sounds like it. So he took the challenge.
He did. Started by forcing himself to smile at his reflection shaving, then at his wife.
How'd that go over?
Apparently she was just bewildered, shocked. But he kept at it, smiled at the elevator guy, the doorman, the subway cashier, people on the stock exchange floor.
And the result?
He found people started smiling back, complaints were easier to handle, and significantly, he credits these initially forced smiles, which became genuine with bringing him, and a quote, dollars, many dollars every day.
Wow, okay, so a tangible financial impact mentioned there.
Definitely. But not just money, his relationships changed too. An office mate's clerk apparently told him he used to think Steinhardt was awful, but the smiling changed his mind completely. Said he seemed really human then.
That's quite a turnaround.
And Steinhardt apparently linked this deliberate change directly to other positive shifts. Less criticism, more appreciation, trying to see the other person's view. He said it all stemmed from deciding to smile more, and it literally revolutionized his life. Made him happier, richer in friendships. The stuff that really matters, he says.
That's powerful. But, okay, what about when you just don't feel like smiling? We all have those days.
The source addresses that directly. 2 suggestions. First, just do it anyway. Force the smile.
Fake it till you make it, basically.
Sort of. And if you're alone, try whistling or humming a tune instead. Act cheerful.
And this ties into that William James idea, right? The psychologist and philosopher.
Exactly. The source quotes him saying something like, action seems to follow feeling, but really they go together. And since you can control your actions more directly...
You can use your actions to indirectly nudge your feelings.
Precisely. James apparently called it the sovereign voluntary path to cheerfulness. Act cheerful, speak cheerfully.
And you might actually start to feel it. Interesting.
Yeah. It implies choice. You choose the action, the feeling might just catch up.
Which leads into a much bigger point the source makes. Happiness itself. Everyone's looking for it, right?
Fundamentally, yes.
And this material argues the most reliable path is controlling your thoughts. Happiness isn't about what's outside you. It's about your inner state.
It uses that comparison. 2 people, same situation, same resources, roughly. One's miserable, one's happy.
The only difference, their mental attitude.
Yeah, and you can see happy faces on poor workers in the heat or miserable faces in plush, air-conditioned offices. It's not the circumstances alone.
That echoes Shakespeare, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That quote's in there.
And Lincoln, too. Most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be.
That story about the kids with disabilities climbing the stairs, that was quite something.
Incredibly moving. They were struggling physically, significantly, but filled with laughter.
And the person with them explained that after the initial shock, they often just accepted their situation and became, remarkably, as happy as normal boys.
It's a really stark example from the source material, maybe, but it powerfully illustrates that idea of resilience and the absolute centrality of mental attitude in determining happiness, whatever hand you're dealt.
Bringing it back to everyday stuff, though, that Senora Maria Gonzalez story in Mexico is a good one.
Oh, yeah, feeling isolated in her office.
Right. Envying the friendly vibe she saw elsewhere. She realized she couldn't just wait for people to approach her. She had to make the first move. Exactly.
Yep.
So next trip to the water cooler, she consciously put on her brightest smile and just said, "Hi, how are you?" to everyone. Simple as that.
And the reported effect was immediate. Smiles back, friendly hellos. The whole atmosphere changed for her.
Yeah, acquaintances became friends. Her whole work life felt better, just from that small intentional act of smiling and greeting people.
It seems really connected to that Elbert Hubbard philosophy the source brings in later. It's not just the smile.
Right, it's the whole attitude. Filling your lungs, greeting friends with a smile, putting soul into every hand clasp, as he put it.
Yeah, cultivating a whole way of being. Chin up, head high, drinking in the sunshine, and crucially, focusing your thoughts on what you want to do, who you want to be.
Hubbard's core idea, as quoted, is that thought is supreme. He advises having a right mental attitude, courage, frankness, and good cheer.
And that line, picture in your mind the able, earnest, useful person you desire to be, and the thought you hold is hourly transforming you.
Powerful stuff. It suggests the thought itself is an active force for change.
Wow. Yeah, it really takes you from something as seemingly simple as a smile all the way to, well, fundamentally reshaping yourself into the person you aspire to be.
And the source links them directly through that intentional mental attitude and choosing your actions.
And then circling right back to the core idea, there's that ancient Chinese proverb mentioned. A man without a smiling face must not open a shop.
So simple, so practical, it perfectly sums up the whole chapter's point, really.
Because your smile, as this material presents it, is like this silent ambassador of goodwill. It can genuinely brighten someone's day. It's described as being like the sun breaking through the clouds, especially for someone who's stressed or having a rough time.
And that final piece the source uses, that reflection for the department store ad during the Christmas rush, the value of a smile.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. Costs nothing, creates so much.
Enriches the receiver, doesn't cost the giver anything, happens in a flash, but the memory can last.
Creates happiness at home, goodwill in business, the countersign of friends.
It's called rest to the weary, daylight to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad. Nature's best antidote for trouble, apparently.
And the key part, you can't buy it, beg, borrow it, or steal it.
Because fundamentally, it's worthless until it's given away.
Which leads perfectly into that final, incredibly poignant line from the ad.
The one about the tired salespeople during the rush?
Yeah. And if some of our salespeople should be too tired to give you a smile, may we ask you to leave one of yours.
For nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give.
Ah, that just ties it all together perfectly, doesn't it?
It really does.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, looking back at this source material you brought us, it's clear. It presents a simple, genuine smile and consciously working on a positive mental attitude. Well, not just as nice things to do.
No, definitely not. It frames them as fundamental tools, really powerful ones, with tangible effects on your own happiness, your relationships, even your professional success.
We saw that threaded through the examples, didn't we? Schwab's success linked to his personality.
Steinhardt's pretty radical personal and professional transformation.
Robert Cryer making that hiring decision based on warmth in the voice.
Maria Gonzalez changing her whole work environment. Concrete examples.
And underpinning it all is that idea, echoed by thinkers like Shakespeare and Lincoln in the text, that happiness. It's generated more from the inside out, you know? Less about external circumstances, more about your internal mindset.
Right. Your mental attitude is key. And the source gives you practical handles for that, like William James's idea. Regulate the action to regulate the feeling.
Yeah, act the way you want to feel.
And Elbert Hubbard's call to vividly picture the person you want to become, with the suggestion that the thought itself helps create the reality.
But maybe the most, resonant takeaway from this specific material is that line from the old ad.
Nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give.
Exactly. It's such a challenge, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It makes you think that maybe the times you least feel like smiling are exactly when offering one could have the biggest impact.
Not just on the other person, maybe, but on you too. By shifting your focus outward, choosing that action.
It could potentially shift your own inner state. It's a fascinating thought.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. How might actively applying this one simple principle straight from this source material impact your life, even just this week?
Yeah. This deep dive, stemming from just this one focused chapter you shared, has certainly given us plenty to chew on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.